Don's calling the imahot, which are the mothers, are four mothers. Leading us. They're all members of our Rodef Shabbat congregational choir. We're going to begin or continue on page 10 with Hine Matov, how wonderful it is that all of us are here together. Mothers, sisters, brothers. To light Shabbat candles, one of you to light and everyone to sing together. Who's going to start the match? So no one wants to do it.
There's still a breeze in here.
It's just Shalom. And as soon as they take their places back, we'll continue with Shalom Alechem, and we welcome our messengers, our special messengers for Shabbat. On page 24, Shalom Alechem.
Shalom Alechem, Alavei Hashamei. Shalom,
Kabbalat Shabbat. We turn back to page 12, the top of the Psalm 95, L'chu Neranana. Come, let us sing joyously to God. On page 13 from Psalm 96, Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash, we sing a new song to God. To L'chadodi on page 20. L'chadodi being the last of our Kabbalat Shabbat songs, of big one in which we welcome the Shabbat presence. We sing together paragraphs 1, 2, 5, and 9, and then when we get to paragraph 9, we'll turn to greet the Shabbat presence and whoever happens to walk in the door, an unfortunate person at that moment, whichever one of those doors. L'chadodi.
Shabbat
met or someone you haven't seen. Wish them Shabbat Shalom. You can move around.
No, you're doing great.
Conversations after services, maybe. My microphone doesn't seem to be working, but we'll get you started with, it's okay, page 22. Page 31, the English at the top of the page we'll read together. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way at which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, ושוכנו ותנומנו, נשיא ברכך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, וממצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו, ובחלק נגן יומם ולילה. Baruch atah Adonai, Oleh Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hashem kevod malchuto le'olam va'ed.
May be seated. Page 36.
Adonai Elohecha bechol b'cha v'nashata v'nechol me'odecha v'hayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווה היום על ידיך ושינתם לבניך ונדברת בם ונשינתך בדרכך ולכתך בדרך ושלטך ובנך ושרתם לעוז על ידיך והיו טובות בין עיניך ושרתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את מצוותיי והייתם קדושים אלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיהם.
On page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets, instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Micha mocha. particularly aware of the most vulnerable among us, especially those who are in need of healing of body or spirit. We hold them in our hearts. Carol Alpert, Lot Ackerman, Julie Arnheim, Les Berkowitz, Bonnie Bloom, Alex Botkin, Jennifer Burnau, Marion Damick, Dina Damas, Joanne Mandel DeWitt, Fern Diamond, Kathy Edelman, Ann Fay, Jessica Fondy, Mark Greenberg, Amanda Goldstein, Richard Gordon, Dina Hafkash, Wayne Hunkel, Naum Kaplan, Al Camper, Eileen Lane, Ruth Leff, Isabel Leindecker, Tony Linder, Susan Lothar, Hal Mendlowitz, Beatrice Jean B.G. Morrison, Ellen Newberg, Fred Oringer, Chan Ho Park, Lev Podorovsky, Charles Rosenblum, Jonathan Robeson, Jordana Pearl Sampson, Oliver Scheibel, Rachel Batshena, Paula Smaller, Bill Stein, Drew Tomasi, Helen Marie Tyree, David Wallach, Dr. Malcolm Weiss, Claudius Willis, Ralph Wise, and Ellen Wolk. Anyone else from Isha Barak tonight?
Judy Smith and Carol Stone. I'm sorry, Terry Supplewitz, Robin Silverman, and Nancy
Heather Long and Zipporah Batzova.
Misha Berach Avotenu v'Imotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sar Rivka Rachel v'Leah Yivarach v'Yirapeh et HaCholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people, and over Jerusalem. We turn now to page 44 at the top of the page, and we join together in V'shamro. Please rise as you are able.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu
You may be seated. On the top of page 55, we read together, "May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat." On page 57, a prayer for prayer. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levavdecha yirah na'avod. And on the top of page 59, a prayer of gratitude we read together. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words.
For the awareness of soul, our light within. For the world around us, so filled with beauty. For the richness of the earth, which
Day by day sustains us.
for all these and more, we offer thanks.
Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, na'eh lahodot. Conclude the tefillah with Shalom Rav, prayer for peace, big Rav, big, abundant peace. And we follow Shalom Rav with our own silent prayer.
Shalom Rav Israel Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Israel Tasim
So this week, ironically, just as we start preparing for Passover, we concluded the book of Shemot last week, the book of Exodus, where we have the whole Passover story, and now we're into Vayikra, which is all about sacrifices. So just the way the calendar works, it's a little ironic that way. But Vayikra, sometimes called everyone's favorite book of the Torah, because it's filled with detailed descriptions of the sacrificial system of worship, blood, guts, incense, lots of repetition. Whereas my son, when he was learning how to be sarcastic when he was 5, he didn't know you were just supposed to be sarcastic. He would say sarcasm like that. It's like, so anyway, but many of you have heard, and by the way, he was 5 when he was doing that. Many of you have heard that our rabbinic sages established that Jewish education should begin with the study of this book. Sacrifices, blood, guts, repetition, that's what they thought we should start with. Because they offer this really sort of beautiful and romantic and idealistic explanation that the tradition for our young people, it works because our children are as filled with beauty and purity as the sacrifices described in the book. One educator thinks it's probably more that the words are repeated over and over so kids could learn them. It's like, repetition is a good way to learn things. And so the repetition was an effective way to reinforce learning. But in any case, our great-great-grandfathers, not grandmothers, but our great-great-great-grandfathers were learning about Judaism by studying these books, these laws about sacrifices. So it's interesting. So it's worth thinking about them in our context today. Even though the system of worship ended with the destruction of the temple more than 2,000 years ago, even though that is the case, we still make our way through these chapters year after year and strive to figure out their meaning, not only in those times, but how they might have relevance for us today. I do believe that while the practices of our ancestors differ far from our own, our religious needs are the same. So what we did is not different than how we felt. Humans have always and will always continue to seek connection, meaning, and a framework upon which to organize our lives. We always have and we will continue to seek forgiveness and renewal when we go off track. And we have yearned for and will continue to yearn for answers to life's deepest questions, even as the need to show our gratitude for all of our blessings is eternal. So we have the same needs. Those needs have not changed. The highly ritualized sacrificial system provided for all of those human needs. But not only is that system gone forever, many of us, especially those of us with classical reform backgrounds or maybe who didn't grow up in this tradition, still question or struggle with or wonder about the role of ritual in our own lives. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable. Yet as serious Jews, we are committed to finding meaning and instruction in the verses that describe sacrifices so that we may find meaning and instruction for our own lives. So the Eitz Chaim commentary, it's a modern and traditional commentary, offers this observation about ritual. It says, something in the human soul responds to ritual, whether it be the formality of a traditional wedding or the rituals of a sporting event or public meeting. There is something comforting about the familiar, the recognizable, the predictable. There is something deeply moving about performing a rite that is older than we are, one that goes back to the time of our parents and grandparents. So simply put, I think this just means that we like things the way we know them, like what we're comfortable with. Our traditions, whatever our traditions are, some people have chicken every Shabbat. There's probably always bagels at a bris. When I was growing up, I thought that whitefish was a part of a funeral, that it was just, whether we're comfortable with that familiar melody of Shalom Alechem, which you did tonight, thank you, our communal Manish Tana and that same tune on Passovers, our rituals and traditions are comfortable and they're comforting. And therefore, they can be uplifting and rejuvenating, right? We feel comfortable with them, and they make us feel good. The Eitz Chaim commentary continues. At crucial times, it is important for us to know that we are doing it right. There is power in the knowledge that we are doing what generations of people before us have done in similar situations, something that other people in other places are doing at the same time and in the same way. For the Israelites of biblical times, it must have been gratifying to know what to do when they wanted to approach God at crucial moments in their lives in need or in gratitude. And rituals, including prescribed prayers, tell us what to do and say at times when we cannot rely on our own powers and inspiration to know what to say or do. So sometimes we think we don't want all the ritual, we don't want all the rules, but sometimes we really need them because it helps us know what to do and what to say and when and where to say those things and do those things. One example, and I know there's hundreds and dozens and dozens and dozens, but one, I have a good friend who's a traditional Jew, and when his mother died, he was heartbroken. And he said, I'm just going to trust the system. That's what he said. I'm just going to trust the system. I'm going to do what the rabbis told me to do. And I mean the rabbinic sages, rabbis. And that system, the laws and rituals connected to death of our loved ones, that system carried him from despair to healing. One day at a time, 1 month at a time. Sheva Shloshim, the year. Day by day, he knew what to do, when to do it, where to do it. So it's all about sort of a background about ritual. And I'd like to just hone in on one verse from chapter 2 of Vayikra, because it's so beautiful, I think. It adds dimension and beauty to the discussion of the meaning which can accompany ritual. In other words, I think it adds a depth and a beauty. And it's found in chapter 2, as I said, and it's connected to the simplest of offerings, the meal sacrifice. So is a meal sacrifice just water and oil, oil and flour. Oil and flour mixed together and cooked. What?
I said it gives you matzah.
It does give you matzah. It also gives you pita, and it gives you flour tortillas, and it gives you wontons, and it gives you everything. It's all the same, right? Water and flour. And that's what the meal sacrifice was. The chapter about the mincha, which is called the mincha offering, begins with the words nefesh ki takriv, when a nefesh brings an offering. So what's a nefesh? A soul. But in this case, it's used for when a person brings an offering. So a person, a soul, but it's very important that it says nefesh, because that's the word that we understand to be soul, the very deepest part of ourselves. Rabbi Yitzchak in the Talmud says, what distinguishes the meal offering that the term nefesh is used? All the other sacrifices, they don't say nefesh, only the meal offering, only the simple bread and oil offering uses the word nefesh. Why? He said, because the Holy One, who is blessed, said, who normally brings a meal offering? It is the poorest person. I account it as though he had offered me his very soul. So this flour and oil, his very soul. The individual, the soul who cannot afford an animal, not even a bird, brings a meal offering, a combination of flour and oil. And that meal offering is termed Kodesh Kodashim, the most holy. That person who has so little and brings that gift is holy, and that person is acting from their soul. Every time I read this portion, the meal offering stands out from the rest of the sacrifices. There's tremendous power in the starkness of the words. In bringing the simplest of offerings, we come before God as our innermost being, our nefesh, our soul. When we make a sincere effort to connect with God, either directly or through our interactions with one another, we bring the most pure, the most holy parts of ourselves. Perhaps this is the real reason our sages taught Vayikra to the youngest students. Give from your soul, they learned. Act from your soul. When we learn that early in our lives, when we're 3 or 4 or 5 years old, it becomes part of our nature. But even as we were just learning this lesson now, it is profound. When our soul leads, our offerings, gestures, gifts, prayers, and songs are holy and pure, and they connect heaven and earth. On this Shabbat, may each of us think about ways we can bring our nefesh, we can bring our pure souls into our actions with God and into our actions with one another. And as a footnote, the Levites were the ones who prepare in the sacrificial system, the Kohanim, the priests, were the ones who made the sacrifice, but the Levites were the ones who helped. And what did they do? They sang. You can't have prayer, you can't have sacrifice, you can't have these offerings, these pure offerings, without music. And I would like to suggest that these 4 women brought with them the most pure parts of their souls to sing with us tonight and to lead us, and appreciate your vulnerability and your courage and your strength. Thank you very much. And Don, thank you for doing it. Our offerings, our gestures, our gifts, and our prayers are holy, and they are pure, and they connect heaven and earth. Shabbat Shalom. We continue now with Aleinu, page 282. Please rise as you are able. Kaddish is on page 294. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. Within the last 30 days, the Shloshim period, Stuart Gall, Richard Cann, Ann Mallinger, Reed Malvin, Marco Massara, Faye Neft, Elliot Weinberg. We also remember those whose yahrzeit we observe on this Shabbat. Stephen Aronson, Samuel S. Blaufeld, Dr. Sidney N. Busis, James E. Glick, Dr. Lee J. Goldblum, Kenneth Goldsmith, Morris Gross, Edwin S. Hepner, Gertrude Kagan, Hilda Lebowitz, Tessie Lippard, Herman Myers, Joy Moss, Max Nathanson, Mildred Oppenheimer, Henry Posner Jr., Isaac Protech, Max Roth, Joseph Rubenstein, Leonard E. Schwartz, Louis Shapiro, Raymond E. Strasburger, Eileen M. Swartz, and George Wolfson. Any other names for Kaddish tonight? Yahrzeits?
Dr. Stanley Hirsch.
Dvorah bat Esther Avram.
Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be for blessing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach ute v'amlich malchute, b'chayachon uv'yomechon, v'chayei decho Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudashah b'rechu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehesh shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, huya aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. You may be seated. In just a moment, we will turn to page 330 for our closing song, Ki Eshmera Shabbat. I'd like to express gratitude to Luke, who I found out last week, not only does he do all the sound and visual, the audio and visual, as we used to say, but he also sets up all the equipment and makes sure that the musicians have their chairs and everyone is doing it. So very grateful to Luke. Very grateful to our music director, Don McGahan, and to the Imahot. The Lennon Sisters just adds a level of it just confuses me too much. But the Imahot, very grateful to Erica, to Anne Claire, to Helene, and to Marilyn. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. Thank you to everyone who participated tonight. Just a couple of announcements. The Healing Garden opening reception will be on this Monday at 6 o'clock. And as you probably noticed when you walked in, the artwork is different in the hallways. The exhibit features botanical drawings by Allegheny Highlands Botanical Art Society members, and it'll be displayed in the lobby through May 7th. So these are some of his, it's a really beautiful, simple, nice, makes you feel healed, because that's what it is. It's a healing garden. We are conducting our first night Seder. That's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, April 5th. RSVPs are still open. We hope that if you don't have a place to go, that you will join us. And if it costs a lot of money, because food costs a lot of money these days. If you would like to come and that price seems a little bit steep, just talk to us, because we want everyone to be able to come. And I had another thing I was going to say. Oh, next week. Next week at this service at 5:30, we'll be in Levy Hall, because our service will be led by the women of Reformed Judaism.
The Atlantic District.
And our special guest musicians are Nefesh Mountain, which is a bluegrass duo, and Jewish bluegrass, really, really lively. And so it should be a lot of fun. It really should be a lot of fun. And we're honoring the Jan Shaw, who will be president of say it again, the Atlantic region of the Women of Rodef, Reformed Judaism. Imahot, Lennon Sisters, women, I don't know. It's too much for me. How about if we just conclude the service with Ki Eshmera Shabbat on page 330. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitzanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishi ki hu yom tefillah l'mikrae kodesh sefer l'tziyat Mitzrayim kivanu levarta yotanu kidashta Mikolim Shabbat get a piece of challah on your way out. And if you would be so kind as to take your books back to the cart. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom.
Hey, Mom.
Nice to see you.
How's it going?
It's just like reading, so simple, so easy.
I think we did
not
it.
even thinking. It just happened.
Sometimes the words were right, sometimes and I did have to whisper, like, we start Shema.
I know. It was like, we're not